Okay. Good morning. Today is August 22nd, 2023. My name is Ebony Love, and I'm joined by Emeline. Can you say your last name for me?
Allenegui.
Allenegui. I almost pronounced the E's a little bit too strongly. So I'm with
Oh, no worries.
Emeline Allenegui, and we are taking this interview via Zoom. I am located in Jacksonville, Florida. And Emeline, can you tell me where you are located?
I am in West Hollywood, Los Angeles, California.
Okay, and this recording is taking place over Zoom. How is it being in Los Angeles right now? Did you get bad weather?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of rain, but it's definitely the media and other Californians who were just freaking out because they say hurricane and we don't get hurricanes. So I was confused. But like as you know, I lived in Florida for 3 years. So I wasn't thinking anything of it. I said, okay, I guess you guys want to get water maybe. But I know that like I was at Trader Joe's the day before and it was just a mess, mayhem. Everybody was like getting toilet paper again. I don't know why toilet paper is so random. Water, like it's all gone. But no, there was like there wasn't really any wind. The rain wasn't that bad. I Last winter we had worse rain and floods. I thought maybe we'd get floods, but there was nothing. It was fine. The earthquake, I know that a lot of people felt it. I actually didn't feel it. My roommate came in, he was like, "Did you feel that?" And I was like, "I didn't feel it. What are you talking about?" So um definitely overhyped. Thankfully, it's overhyped. So from what I've seen, from like what I've heard from my friends and family, nothing bad happened to anyone of us, and I don't hear anything too much on the news or anything. So thankfully, overhyped. Weather definitely reminded me of Florida, made me miss it a little bit, but yeah. Also made me feel like class was going to get canceled because that's just like built in at because in Florida when they say hurricane, I'm like, okay, that means no class and stuff. Everything's closed for 3 to 4 days.
Mhm.
So when they said hurricane, I was like, oh my God, everything's gonna get canceled for 3 days. And like, no, that didn't happen.
And just for
So
context, so there was a there was a hurricane and an earthquake in California, and hurricanes are not common in California, so much so I think the media was saying that it's the first time in decades that they've ever had a tropical storm warning, much less a hurricane warning. And so usually us Floridians get all of the hurricane trauma. But
yeah.
you kind of mentioned that you grew up in California. Can you kind of tell me where you were born and how your early childhood was like?
So I was born in LA County, but I grew up in the suburbs, really. I did, I mean, when I say grew up, like maybe until I was 5, I lived in more of a city area, like in an apartment. And then when my parents moved, they moved us to the suburbs. And the suburbs that we ended up in is called Chino Hills. And at that time, it was still kind of, I don't want to say super small town, but it was basically all farm. We had like corn, strawberries, cows, and like it smelled like cows. It was a smaller, it was just a smaller town at that time. Lately, or as the years had gone on until I became went into high school, it became a lot more affluent. They moved all the farms out. A lot of houses got built. So a lot of things changed when I was there. Same thing as my family, just for personal. We were, I don't know, we were pretty well off when we first moved out there. We were like, nice and comfortable. But after in high school, I believe, my parents went through some tough times. So I went from very comfortable and spoiled straight down to, trying to help my mom make ends meet. If a high schooler could ever do that, I was working student store, just trying to like save money for them and everything. But I know I still, at least where I grew up, I was still afforded a lot of privileges. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm in California and I'm Asian, so there wasn't too much of a disconnect, I guess, race-wise, culturally. Well, not culturally, because actually I was with mostly East Asians, and I'm Filipino. So that there's a little bit of a difference there too that I didn't recognize until I was out of high school also. Um, just because, and not that any of my friends in high school or anybody ever pointed it out, but culturally there's actually significant differences. So growing up, it's like privilege, but there were tiny struggles that I didn't even realize were struggles until I was out of high school. That makes sense. Yeah.
Can you kind of explain for somebody like me who I grew up in the South, and so my struggles were being a Black woman growing up in the
Mhm.
deep South. And so can you explain like one of the differences that you kind of learned about once you got into college, but you didn't necessarily know about when you were younger?
So growing up, oh man, I really wanted to be white. And I feel like this is just a very common experience for a lot of, I don't know if just Asians, but I think anybody who's not white who grows up in America and they know that if you're not, they don't even know, I think it's unconscious. They don't know that they don't realize this, but they are trying to be white to fit in. So for me, mo majority of my like growing up is like I wanted to be white. I wanted to make sure in that the white girls like got me like were in talk to me and accepted me and let me in their group type of thing. But it is always going to be a little bit of there's always going to be a difference. The main stereotypes that we face is not that bad, I guess. I don't want not to like compare or anything, but they assume that you're smarter because you're Asian or that you don't really work hard in school because you're Asian. But at the same time, my type of Asian is, I don't want to say like a lower Asian, but if you could talk to anyone, there's a difference between how East Asians perceive Southeast Asians and South Brown Asians. Um, so while the white folks think that, oh, we're smart because we're Asian, the East Asians kind of think that Filipinos, I'm not speaking for all East Asians, but the stereotype for them from what I've heard and what they've kind of portrayed some over the years is that we're lazy. We're the Mexicans of Asia, or we're not we're good attitude, but we're not Korean, Chinese, Japanese. We're not of that elite caliber.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a weird line. So for my solution was, okay, I'm white. Like I'm gonna figure out how to be white. I'm gonna reject all of that. I'm not Asian, I'm not Filipino. I am just American and I am here like about to do my stuff. So that was my sorry, my dog is barking for some reason. So that was what my struggles were in high school. Again, that wasn't something that I consciously thought, oh, they don't like me. It's kind of one of those things where I didn't realize it until I got into college. Because once I got into college, I ended up joining a Filipino American student group. And being around my people, I just kind of realized, oh, huh. So there's a lot of people who feel like this, like this. And then that also led to me talking to my parents about it. My mom is an immigrant, so they're both immigrants, but my mom grew up in the Philippines. My dad, he grew up here in America. He didn't in LA actually, like in South Central. He like grew up there and he has a similar feelings as I do. So it was kind of nice to actually open that up with my parents or talk to my dad about it. Whereas we feel like we're trying so hard to be a good Asian, if that makes sense. We're trying so hard to just fit in and make sure that we're not causing any waves. Keep your head down, just work hard. And if someone notices, whether they're white or East Asian, and we know that they have a snap judgment about us, that we prove them wrong, and we're making sure that um, we're not like them. Even now, professionally, there's not a lot of Filipinos in the legal field, and I just had an interview with a firm, and there was a Filipino partner, which is very uncommon. And I got so excited, but then I had to like remind myself, like, oh, she might be harder on me than everybody else because to get to that position is not common. And she probably worked really, really hard. Um, yeah, so again, still a weird balance to try to go through because I didn't even think that Filipinos were different from Asians before, really. I
Mhm.
thought that we were all just going to get lumped together. Once I got into college, once I actually joined the workforce, I started realizing that the some of the Asians don't accept me the same way as my high school friends did. You know, it's a little bit different, especially the older generation. It's a little bit different. So
And did your parents go to college?
yeah, yeah, they did. They did. I was say my mom went to in the Philippines, but she did go to college here. Yeah, both of them did.
And so how did you navigate? I know you said that you started working in high school to try to help your family. How did you navigate, applying for and like choosing a college?
Oh gosh. So I'm the eldest daughter of an immigrant family, and I don't know if people know what that's being like, especially being a part of Filipino family. Filipinos are the women kind of run the household, so there's a lot of expectation for me to just deal with things and just take care of stuff. So this isn't even just being Asian or just being Filipino thing, but the process had already changed between my parents going to college versus me going to college. So they didn't know about financial aid really. They didn't really know what colleges to look at other than, like go to UCLA, something like that. Um, for me, luckily, the group of friends that I made that were my main group in high school, they were the huge overachievers. So they were the ones telling me. So I didn't know what an ACT was until I remember I was just at lunch and they're like, "Are you taking an ACT this weekend?" Or a couple weeks. And I'm like, "What's that?" They're like, "Oh, it's like the SAT." And okay. And I went home and told my parents, I think I have to take this ACT. It's some test for college. And I said, oh, okay. And then they pulled my older brother in and had him take the same test also the same time I did. Same thing with the SAT. My parents are pretty hands off on me. I mean, partially I think it's because they trusted me to take care of things, and partially because they just didn't know because they didn't. I think ACT was new at the time too. So a lot of it was me just hearing from my friends that I needed to do something. Because even with AP classes, I didn't really know about AP classes that much either, because my dad didn't really do AP classes. My mom didn't go to high school here. So a lot of the classes that I took was just because my friends were taking it. So luckily for me that worked out for me. It's like peer pressure, but in a weirdly good way. And in terms of applying for colleges, again, my parents were pretty hands off on it. They just let me pick as long as I took classes that they wanted me. My dad's in computer science. My mom was accounting. As long as I took a class in that in college, they were fine with it. They had already kind of given up on trying to force me into any career. I thought I was gonna be a writer. So they just said, okay, you know what, you go ahead and do your thing. So yeah, I just looked up what colleges. I mean, did the typical thing, all the for California, pretty much pick the UCs that you want, University of California schools that you want to go to, pick the Cal States, another different type of California university that you'd like to go to. And yeah, I didn't even bother applying out of state at the time. My mom was very, she was very protective. And also my little brother, he's about 15 years younger than me. They wanted me to stay home. They didn't explicitly say this, but they needed help taking care of him too. So didn't even play outside, mostly stayed inside whatever was going to be easiest. So
And
yeah,
so
it was just luck in a weird way.
and so how was it attending? You went to Cal Poly Pomona?
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
And so how was it attending there?
So like I said, I stayed home. I was a commuter student. I thought that I was gonna just stay there for about a year and then transfer out, but I ended up really liking it. It wasn't, I don't want to say UCs are elitist, but the way UCs approach education is different from Cal State's. UCs are very theoretical based, and they do a lot of the lectures and the readings. I suppose it's like law school where you do a lot of reading and then you do lectures and you just answer questions. Whereas Cal State, even Cal Poly, their motto was learn by doing. So it was very a lot of applied things during classes. Like you have to do an internship, you have to do all like actual active work, make sure you run events, everything like that. Um, but the big plus in my college was the Filipino American club that I ended up joining. My mom went to the same college I went to actually, and she had been in that club, and she told me, if you go to Cal Poly, make sure you join this club. It's called Barkada. And again, like I said, I was trying to be white. I was staying away from Filipinos because they're weird. I don't want to be around them. But I ended up joining, and that's when I really started learning about my culture and about some of our history. So that was the biggest plus for me. And that's still, when I think about my undergrad, that's what I think the most fondly of. I don't remember anything from my undergrad classes really. A couple professors here and there, maybe a couple English classes. But when I think about my undergrad, it was really that club that made the experience because it connected me to my roots, to my culture, to people in my community. We interacted with all the other Filipino clubs in Southern California and even some going up to NorCal. And I'm very blessed that I had that opportunity. I know if I had gone somewhere, like if I had gone to NorCal, or if I had, even if I'd gone out of state, I wouldn't have had the chance to learn about our history as a people. So that was a nice first step to open up my mind also, because like I said, I wasn't trying to be Filipino, but once I got there, I learned, I met more Filipinos, like people, my own people, similar, who are also different, just all of our like wide experiences. Um, and I became very passionate about the community. I got really involved. I still have it, but it's not as strong just because I have a lot of professional things that I have to work on. But yeah.
And how do you spell Bacarda? I didn't catch the
Oh,
name.
Barkada. Barkada. Yeah, it's Barkada.
Yeah, I
It
spelled
means
that.
it means a group of friends.
Yeah, I tried to write it down and I butchered
No
that.
worries. No worries.
Okay.
Yeah, still my baby. Yeah.
What was your undergraduate major?
I was a communications major. My emphasis was in PR because it was either PR or journalism. I went with PR. And then I minored in English.
And
It
so,
was going to be a temporary.
sorry, there's a lag, and so I'm sorry for keep cutting you off.
It's okay. No, my.
So you studied communications. Why
Hmm?
in the world did you want to go to law school?
That's a journey in itself, though. Like I didn't even really. Okay, it's like I said, in high school, I wanted to be a writer, like a creative writer. I actually wanted to be in film, screenwriting. Um, I didn't get into USC, which is the film school. I didn't get in. I thought about going to Cal State Long Beach, where they had a good film program too. But since with family and everything, I said, okay, I'll just go to Cal Poly for now. I'll continue helping my family since I'll still be able to live at home. The closest thing I have there is communication. Okay. Went into communication. Well, you know what? I kind of liked the major that I was in, PR. It's all about, convincing, persuasion. It's almost like marketing, but with writing, but more writing based. I had graphic design stuff in there, so it was a little bit creative. A lot of writing too, but it was a lot more straightforward than English, right? It was very clear, concise words that's persuasive, that you can get your message out and go. So I started to like it. And because I became so involved with my community, I've always had this, I wanted to need to want to help people. Growing up, I wanted to be a teacher, actually. That switched in high school for some reason, because everyone was like, oh, teachers, they're going to be stuck there in their life forever. It was one of those things. My family's a family of teachers, but went into communication, sort of liked it since I've always had this need to want to help people. I thought I was going to be doing like PR for nonprofits, something like that. I did a couple internships doing that, and it just felt kind of icky for me because a lot of it was actually me just kind of asking people for money, which I get is important for nonprofits. That's like the whole spiel. But it was like weird. I don't know. It didn't feel, it felt weird. And also it wasn't an active way of helping anybody for me. It wasn't direct enough for me. So after college, I ended up in graphic design. I thought, oh, maybe I'll be creative. I didn't enjoy being creative for money either. Also felt a little icky. So I got a job in a law firm doing their finances because my mom's an accountant. I did work in her accounting firm for a little while in college. If work is going to be work, it should be work. I wanted to keep that separate from what my passions were.
Mhm.
But once I got into the law firm, I was looking what the lawyers were doing, and I was like, oh, they're reading and writing. I love reading and writing. Obviously, I like writing. And like if they're just researching and writing, I think I can do that. Just reading what they were writing, and they're like wonderful writers. Coming from a PR background, they were so clear and concise, but also they had the chance to have a little bit of storytelling going on too because they're lawyers. They were a criminal defense, so they were definitely trying to put out stories like that. So I thought, oh, I think I can do that. That would be interesting. I think I can jump into that. And since I was doing finances, I thought, okay, well, maybe there's tax, maybe there's real property, something like that. I didn't really know about the legal field that much. I just knew like I want to write too. I want to do the research. I don't know if I'll do litigation. I just want to go and give it a shot. Um, Also, since I wasn't using my major all the way, I guess, and I was doing finance, which is okay, but it wasn't like my love or anything. So made the jump into law school, and I went to Florida partially because I think 2016, that was when Trump got elected. Oh my God. So that was also another reason why I wanted to go to law school. I thought I was going to be an immigration attorney. After all those scenes, when he did whatever he implemented,
It was
and
the
all those people got
Muslim ban.
the Muslim ban. Yeah, I was watching it and I saw that my boss and his associates went down to the airport, and I have friends who were parents or immigrants. I thought I was going to be an immigration attorney, so I really wanted to go and help. Like I said, I've always wanted to help people. I thought I could do that more directly as an attorney. So I wasn't sure exactly. Like either I was going to do real estate law or I was going to do immigration law, which are two completely different things. I decided to go to Florida because I had been in California my whole life, and there's got to be a reason why these people all voted for Trump. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm just like insane because I live in California. Like, you know what I mean? Because people also on the internet, it's like, oh, California is this. I'm like, why? Like, are we bad? Are we the ones who don't know anything? Maybe I need to go somewhere. So I really wanted to get away from California and see what it was like and meet other types of people and be in a different, atmosphere and community. Um, and see what the heck I'm missing. Because I almost ended up in North Carolina. Although I really like North Carolina. I had visited for some reason, I don't know. I really like North Carolina. So I was either going to be in North Carolina, um, New Orleans, so Tulane. I was either going to end up there. It was North Carolina, Tulane, or DC. And then it was Florida. And Florida just gave me the best package. And I have an aunt who lives in Florida, so that gave me a little bit of my parents and family a little bit more comfort that at least I'll have someone close there if anything happens. And so I moved to Florida and did law school.
Which
Mm.
I'm not even gonna unpack that. When was the first time you saw an attorney who looked like you?
I think it was just that one that I just saw met yeah, is there any been Filipino? Is there anyone before the one that I just met last week? Oh no, my mom's friend is an attorney. So I met her right before I went to college. I mean, went to law school because my mom said, "Oh, my friend's yeah, her high school friend." They reconnected and said that her friend is an attorney. And so I did meet her before I went to law school. I asked her a little bit on advice of which school to pick, and it was definitely whoever gives you the most money, go. So yeah, she was right before law school. Before that, no, no, yeah, I think it was just her. And then after that, now it's just been the lady I met last week. Like it's true, I haven't really met anyone that had really looked like me, but I know that there's Filipina judges and stuff that exist. But I didn't know about them because nobody told me. And it's not like no offense to them, but they also weren't super active in the community. So it's not so much that they weren't really put in our faces either. Not They weren't put in our faces, and they also didn't reach out a lot, I guess. I don't blame them though, because I guess it's kind of hard. I don't know if I'd be out here being like, oh, where's all the Filipinos that want to be lawyers? It's not the most popular profession, but yes, they do exist. I just want to mention that they do exist. I just never met them.
Like, how does that kind of impact the way that you navigate through whether it was law school or your profession now, knowing that, like, I hate using this term so much, but it's the only one I could think of, knowing that you're kind of a unicorn, like, how do you navigate the legal
Yeah.
profession that way?
And it's actually something that I've been thinking about a lot lately because I am a little bit newer in my field. And for some reason, like I knew this, right? Like I said, before I went to law school, I recognized that professionally, Filipinos are usually nurses. If they're going to be white collar, or I don't know, are nurses white collar? If they're going to be professionals, it's usually nurses, accountants, or engineers. I knew a lot of the engineers in college, Filipino males mostly. Um, a lot of my friends did end up becoming nurses, and I do have a handful of friends that became accountants. I didn't want to do any of those things. Um, so like I knew that there's not a lot of us doing other things, but I guess I didn't really think that the quantity was that few. Um, it wasn't. It's kind of like out of high school. It wasn't really put in front of my face until law school, where I was like, huh, there's not a lot of me out there. And the me's that are out there are not Filipino, they're Asian women. But the Asian women, my friend who's also Asian, he also experiences the Asian people that do become lawyers, they go straight into more businessy. They're not really doing immigration. Well, I guess some of them are, but they're not doing those ones. They're doing more the ones that are going to make lots of money. And that's not really something that I was super interested in. I wasn't into business law or anything like that. So I don't know. It's hard to explain because I'm still experiencing it. I'm still having these realizations. Like I said, when I was gonna go meet that Filipino attorney, I got so excited because like, oh, there's someone who's like me. So it's possible. I can become a partner. I don't have to stay like not in management. This is also something that a lot that my dad and I have discussed before. Filipinos are really good workers and people do like having us work for them because we don't really complain. We just get the stuff done and they do it well, but it's not often that you see them go past, middle management, I guess, like if that's the term. Again, when I think Filipino attorneys, there's a handful of us. There's not I don't know a lot of partners who are Filipino. They kind of drop out, And when I was in my tax law school, I actually met someone. He worked at one of the big four accounting as a attorney, Filipino male. He picked my resume to email me to interview me because we had the same journey. We were, grew up in California. We were really involved with the Filipino community. We ended up going to law school. And he told me, he said, there's not a lot of us out here. You got to make sure you're good. I'll take care of you if you're here, but make sure like you're doing well because we're not here. He had become already not desensitized. I don't even want to say cynical because like I said, he was very into his community also, and he wanted to fight and help elevate us, but he was tired, you know. He was tired of trying to keep up appearances for himself and trying to get other people up with him. And sometimes our own people disappoint us and they don't make it, not because they're not good enough, but there's for a variety of reasons. But in terms of trying to navigate that, I'm still it's hard. I'm still being like, okay, I need to fit in with this certain group of people. I still need to get their acceptance. And I don't know if that's avoidable. I don't think it is until there's enough minorities or, people who are open-minded, who don't have snap judgments yet. I don't For now, I mean, the best thing I can hope for right now is okay, I got to make sure that I place myself in a good position. Also, if I can become a partner, if I can become like a hiring manager or anything like that, if I get into that sort of place, that when it's my turn, that I make sure I'll take care of my people, but I'll take care of whatever Asians come across, any Black people, any Latino, Latinx. I make sure that I'm not going to have that snap judgment and make sure I'm not contributing to a, process where I'm favoring I guess, the white culture before everybody else, where we're all just people. I don't want to say colorblind, but where I'm a lot more cognizant of it, and making sure that those kids or younger people don't feel like they have to be a certain way to fit in. But I feel like I still have to fit in. So I think that's my job. I think for me, it's like I will play the game in a sense. Like I will do what it takes to make sure that I'm there, do my job correctly, but also kind of push a little bit of a change, like little by little if I can.
And so your answer kind of transitions me to my next question. You and I had a class together in law school, critical race theory with Professor Jacobs, who I interviewed. And like, this is a quick aside, that part where you're talking about being tired, I think she articulated that so well because she was talking about how her experiences with being at UF for the years that she had been there, she had to take 9 months to recover from being there. And so I identify, and also other people identify with that sense of exhaustion that comes from being like one of the only. But we took critical race theory together. And my question is like, why did you want to take that class and kind of what did you get out of it?
First, I want to say that I'm actually impressed that you're still doing this work because I'm actually even tired. But like you're still doing this stuff. That's why when you reached out, I was like, oh, damn, she's like still like good for her. Because I remember during one of those class sessions, you expressed that you like, what's the point if everything's not changing? And right now we're seeing, Roe get switched back. I never ever thought that would ever happen. And it did. And you know, for you to be still in the thick of it and you're still doing this, it's very impressive because I've kind of already, I don't want to say stopped, but it's been on a, on a side burner, a back burner type of thing. Critical race theory. So first of all, the fact that Professor Jacobs taught it, all the Florida professors are pretty good. I do have specific professors that I do think were like, oh, those were good professors. But I had Professor Jacobs for crim my 1L year, and everyone was like, oh, she's so mean, but oh my god, like she's the most. I love strict professors. They really challenge me, and the way Professor Jacobs taught, how much I learned from her in that class, I would want to do another class with her. I really love professors like her. And then critical race theory, again, I said I wanted to go to Florida to go learn something and figure out what the heck is going on. And why don't I know things? Or why does it feel like I'm truly in this bubble and everybody else is living this world that I don't understand? So I was drawn to that class because I wanted to learn about that. I mean, my first exposure to like, I guess, activism was really, when was Ferguson? Was it 2013? I think that was Ferguson.
You know what? I'm not even gonna lie because I did
Yeah.
another interview with somebody who actually lived in the area and I got the date wrong, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. That was my first intro, I guess, to it. Because I don't think I mentioned my relationship to the Black community prior to law school. Um, I I didn't know a lot of Black people growing up either. So the Black people that I did encounter and meet was through basketball because I played basketball growing up. And I mean, to be fair, all my Black friends in the South and the East Coast, even Professor Jacobs, they say West Coast Black people are a little bit different. So I actually kind of grew up a little scared and intimidated of the Black community. I had taken a trip to New York by myself once in undergrad, and I was scared to be in Harlem because I just never, I was just so unexposed. I had no idea, I didn't know anything until I went to Florida. Until like 2013, where I started opening my mind a little bit even more. And then I went into Florida and there was a huge community. And that became my community because there wasn't any of me there either. So um, I wanted to understand more about, because I didn't even really know critical race theory. It's just, when you hear the name of it, critical race theory, you're like, oh, that sounds like something like racial and interesting that I should know. You know, if I'm going to be here trying to do activism, if I'm going to be here trying to unite Asian community with Black community, or learn more about the Black community and be a good ally, then that's something I should take. And got into the class, and I learned really what it was, how it's, you know, how social economic policy, how all history affected the laws that are created at that time and how they still trickle down now. Oh man, that was so eye-opening. Like you know that the country's kind of is kind of racist. You know that it's kind of structurally racist. But when you look at actually reading the laws and the cases and how they referred to Black folks and how they referred to Asian communities and what they talked about and how the focus was in legal documents, and it's so, oh, like I don't say it's disheartening. It's just really eye-opening. I'm like, oh my God, like our our system, our laws in place truly are not, I don't want to say racist because people are going to get so upset about it, you know what I mean? It's race-based though. It's definitely, if you look at the Japanese internment camps, you know, that stuff wasn't illegal because they made it legal. And because they made it legal, then you realize like, okay, that was wrong. We know that's 100% wrong, but it was legal. Like with slavery, 100% wrong, but it was legal. And then just realizing that, oh, like even I'm having like a moment right now because it's because it just brings you back.
I think, like, to kind of also contextualize what you're saying, and like for anyone who listens to this, I think the hesitation with using the term racist, like we live in a racist society, is that the term gets so misused nowadays that it
Yeah.
doesn't have the same meaning if, like, we're talking about it in an academic sense versus somebody sees something on the street and they're like, oh, that person is racist. Like those two meanings of the same word don't match. But I think that like what we did in that class to be like to capture the full picture is that the textbook that we used had different racial categories, and we kind of went through each of the chapters. And so it started with Indigenous people, Native Americans, and went through kind of the treaties and things like that that were signed by the colonists and the UK, I don't know, the people who were here before America was America. And so it was like those treaties, and then it went after we created America and like talking about slavery with Black folks, and then it went through other, you know, like Hispanic, Latino, Asian, all of the different racial categories, and kind of outlined different points in history when huge swaths of laws were created, and then the court cases that followed. But during the class, we had we had to either write a paper or do a final project. I wrote a note, and mine was an actual writing, but you did something a little bit different. What was your topic, and how did you develop the project that you did for the class?
So my topic, I wanted to do something that I guess meant something to me, or I was personal in a weird, and that's personal. So my topic was about uh I mean, the main topic was about Asian American fetishization. So there's this, okay, I have to like go into this now because there's a little bit of, so there's this thing called lolicon that's in anime world, you know, Japanese cartoon world. A Lolita it's its name because it's a child, you know, it's a little girl, a cartoon little girl, and lollies are those cartoon little girls, right? So lolicon is is sexualizing those little girls. People argue that that's not a real little girl, it's a cartoon, but they look like little girls. They act like little girls. And that's in my opinion, they are little girls, and people sexualize them. Yeah, I guess technically it's not real sexualization of a little girl because they're fake, but you know, kind of pedophilia, kind of get there. So because Asian media was starting to pick up at that time, not K-pop so much yet, but there's a lot of anime. I knew there's a lot of people around the world, not just Asians, white men, black men, well, women also who liked anime. And there was an uptick in Twitch streaming. I don't know if you know what Twitch streaming is. People who stream, and people will donate money to people who are streaming if they like that person or if they want to interact with that person. And there was an uptick of women who kind of imitated, that uwu, uwu, aigo, cute girls, even though they're grown women, but it was like a weird sexual way also. So I thought that I always felt weird about that because I don't do that stuff. I feel like my voice is a little bit deeper than a lot of other girls. And I'm, a regular adult. But even in Florida, there was people that were like infantilizing me. They're treating me like a little girl, doing, oh, you're so cute. It's like, I even had a friend who I made a sexual comment and he was like, oh, that's so weird coming from you because you're not like that. And I'm like, I am in my late 20s. What do you mean? Versus my best friend in law school who's black. Like she can be sexual all she wants. He doesn't say anything about that. So my topic was about whether our First Amendment, you know what? Let me go pull up the thesis. It was just about that, if us as America, I guess lifting or being more casual about our First Amendment rights is contributing to this Asian fetishization because America is all for free speech and all for letting people do what they want, which means, okay, so media, this Lolita media and stuff can be lifted a little bit more. And if that lifting is going to contribute to other people fetishizing Asian women because of this content that they're associating us with.
And I think that your project is actually not a little, but a lot prolific because we have a lot of debates in the media today about AI works, AI art, and
yes.
I really appreciated the way that you did your project because it brought something to the class that I don't think we would have thought about had it not been for your voice being added to the class. And so I think that with us, we always take for granted that there are few Black attorneys, but we don't recognize that there are also other folks with other identities, and there's even fewer of you. And so, can you kind of talk to me about, leaving law school, you decided to go to get an LLM, and an LLM is an advanced law degree. After you get your Juris Doctor, it's an advanced degree after that. Why did you do that, and why did you choose tax?
Okay. Oh, just to mention, we had another Filipino American in our critical race theory, Kyla. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember, I remember she made a comment after we watched my project, and she said, she's like, I go through this. Her experience is very different also because she's in Florida. So for me, when I was in Florida, I went to their little Filipino club on UF. It's a little bit different than mine. Not that she doesn't have as many people of her own. At least when I was in California, I had people of my own. But yeah, I guess that's beside the point. But yeah, she had it. I don't remember what her project was, but mine was definitely like Asian based. So the question was going to my LM. So I had already decided that I wanted to be in estate planning when I was too well. Because it mixed tax and it mixed trust and wills and estates. And I really liked that class. And also my grandmother was going through something in the family regarding, properties and stuff. We actually had a little bit of when I was growing up, there was a little bit of, I don't want to say infighting, but there was lots of disagreements when my other grandmother passed away. So it was a little bit personal. When I decided I wanted to go into estate planning, that's a very niche. There's not a lot of people who want to do this to do this, and I talk about it all the time. I think I'm the only one. I was the only one in Florida that wanted to do it because it was so random. And the dean had gotten rid of our estate planning certificate program, which was one of the reasons why I went to Florida. And then she took it out when I was a 1L, and I was like, girl, like, why? But she took it out. And so I was calling all my California firms. I wanted to come back to California. As much as I enjoyed Florida, I wanted to be back home. So I called all the California farms and I was asking, how do I get in, or essentially, and all of them suggested I go get my tax LLM. And I said, oh, okay. I mean, I guess I like tax classes. I had already been taking my tax classes anyways. One of the reasons why is I have one of my best friends in law school, Esther, Esther. She was very into tax, and she was one of the few people that I could connect with on the financial side or a financial academic side, because all our friends were not in finance. She did that as her major. She's very business oriented. And I think as a 2L, she was saying, oh, I'm taking federal income tax class. And I was like, huh, maybe that's a cool class to take. Maybe I'd be good at that too. So because of her, I felt comfortable going into that class and seeing what it was like. And then I ended up taking like all the tax classes with her and wherever she was. We both did it. She was supposed to do the LLM with me too, but she went and got a job. Like I was like, how dare you? And she's like, I'm sorry. And then not only did she get a job in an accounting firm, literally a year after that, she went into Big Law. So she doesn't even need an LLM. No, like she's not going back for it. She doesn't need to. And I'm just like, but you know what? I don't regret it at all. So I only applied to one school. I applied to UCI in California because, um, as you know, Florida sold me a dream. They told me that they can place me in California, but it's very hard getting out of the geographical location that you go into law school at. So if anybody's going to law school, make sure you take that into account. You can probably get into your geographical location, desired one, but law school, it's still kind of old fashioned. They'll still look at reputation, unless you're in Ivies or something. They'll still look at your reputation, and they're still going to look at where you went to school. Because I learned Florida laws, and I did not need to learn Florida laws. I still don't need it unless I move back there. But I decided to go to UCI, do my tax LLM there. There was only 8 of us because it was a new program. I picked UCI because the dean had taught at Florida, and all my Florida professors gave him the go ahead. They said that he's a good professor. They didn't know about the program. They're like, I'm not sure, because UF is a very good tax program. If I had known that we were going to go in through the pandemic and we were going to be in quarantine, I would have applied. I would have probably stayed in Florida. I probably would have not stayed in Florida, but I probably would have done my program with Florida because it's all. Oh no, that's not true. The Florida lifted their. Never mind. I wouldn't have gone to Florida. I probably would have done New York. Yeah, I know Florida. Yeah, Florida lifted their. They didn't do quarantine that long. Never mind. I wouldn't have done Florida.
Florida
But
didn't quarantine at all.
yeah, they didn't, did they? Oh, I completely forgot about that. Okay, never mind. I wouldn't have stayed in Florida. But I basically did my LLM through Zoom, which was kind of hard. But there was a lot more Asians. So of the 8 of us, there was 8 of us in that class. There was me, half of us were Asian. Totally different experience from law school. And so, um, none of them wanted to go into estate planning either, though. So I was alone in that. They all wanted to do one of them weird. My best friend from tax law school, she wanted to do like environmental tax. I don't know if it makes sense. Hers also very niche. I don't know if she's really on the good side now, good quote unquote side now, because was on a good side when we were in school. I don't know if she is now, because it's kind of hard to be on the good side when it comes to big corporations. But yeah, I was the only one who wanted to do estate planning. Even now, only one who wants to do estate planning. Currently, my job, my friend, my coworker, who's about my age, she's also the only one who wanted to do estate planning in her class. There's not a lot of young people that want to do it. People who usually that I know that have fallen into it just fall into it because that's where they land. But people who actively like it and want to go into it, of what I know, it's just me and my friend. We're the only two. So.
Okay, so 2 last questions. You see a little girl like you in middle school, and she has never seen an attorney who looks like her. What advice would you give her, especially if she doesn't know that she could one day be an attorney?
Like general life advice, so here's the thing. When I talk about law school to people, just becoming a lawyer and doing law school, I actually try to talk people out of it because it's a hard profession. So, And a lot of people, they go into law school for the wrong reasons. I mean, I don't want to be mean, but going into law school, becoming a lawyer for the money is like the worst reason you could, one of the worst reasons to go to law school, because there's no guarantee that you're going to make that money. There's so many people who are smart in this country. Like the competition you have, I used to think I was pretty smart, and then I got to law school and I was like, okay, I might be like on the dumber side. Who knows? But there's a lot of competition. There's no guarantee that you're going to make money. So for me, I'm always trying to talk people out of it. And if after I've done my spiel about how it's really hard and it's a scam, and you still want to do it, then go for it. You really have to think about it, because especially now, I don't know if it's going to be changing in the future, but taking on the debt that law school has, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. There's the debt. Most of us are in six-figure debt. Not I got a full scholarship and I'm still in debt. Like even without the LLM, I would still be in a hefty amount of debt, even though I got a full scholarship. There's a debt, and then there's the mental toll of law school itself. Having to compete against people who are your friends because you need to be better. And luckily, I don't think my class was like this, but I've heard of other schools where they're fighting against each other, like actively trying to undercut each other. That's hard too. And then if you grew up thinking you're smart, and then you go into, and it's a curve program, it's a curve, and then instead of getting the A that you probably would get if it wasn't a curve, you get like a C. You're just like, damn, am I smart? Am I dumb? Like there's that. And then it's the trying to find a job is hard. And then to put layer that, if there's someone who's Filipino who's like me and they're still going through their journey, because I think almost all of Filipinos kind of have this journey, because there's not a lot of, I don't know, there's not a lot of guidance. So like my Chinese friends, they have Chinese school. Korean friends, there's Korean school. They all have like their little like things like that. For Filipinos, culturally, even in the Philippines, they're very good at assimilating. That's how we've survived so long. We got colonized like 3 times, and they've survived because they assimilated and they were able to adapt, which is a good thing. But because of that, when they came to America, like I said, I was trying to be white. I was really good at being white. We could adapt really quickly. And there's a lot of unwinding all of those thoughts about my own people, about my culture, about what we look like or what we appear to be to other communities. That took years. And I'm lucky that I was able to have that type of education and opportunities to unwind all that. And I have, like the college I went to, the people that I met, undergrad that I went through, and the people that I met through it gave me that opportunity. There's not a lot of people who do that, or who are like that, or who are able to have that opportunity. They just go in and just go out. So on top of having to deal with, trying to find yourself as a Filipino in America, then you have to think how trying to find yourself as a Filipino in the profession. For a little girl, I would just say, it's like, that's a long, long talk that I would have to sit down with her. I think really, I would try to hear what she wants first.
Mm-hmm.
To give the advice. If I was going to give flat advice, it would just be like, be open-minded. Try to learn as much as you can. Like try to learn as much as you can. And if you need to take a break, take a break. We do better when we are able to digest and absorb whatever new information, whether it's culturally, whether it's culturally, whether it's in the law, whether it's internal journeys. You need to be very mindful of where your brain is at, so you can keep on going. Take breaks where you're needed, and it's not impossible. Nothing's impossible. I keep on saying that I'm lucky to have had the opportunities, and I am luck. Part of it is luck, but there's also this motto that I have that I don't know where I got it from. It might have been from my mom, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. So to make it super, super, just keep trying. Keep trying and take care of yourself. Of course, there's lots of other things that I could talk about being Filipino, a little girl doing it. It's not going to be easy, but we're kind of built for this. The Filipino women are pretty strong.
Okay, and my last question is there anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to share?
I did want to mention something about the critical race theory thing, I think you were talking about what we were doing. And I just want to, going through that journey, like I said, it is an eye-opening every single stage of the way, right? I remember when they were talking about the Native Americans, and how they were pushing them out. I knew about that, them pushing them out, but then you remember that they just made these rules up, right? The colonists, they just came out of nowhere. And it's like, who told them they can just do this, you know? And then when I look at that, and then I look at the Chinese Americans who, I think I think the Mexican Americans also tried to use the law or go through the system to try to fight it, which is
Mhm.
also so strange because they were here first. As a Californian, I forget that the Mexicans were here first. Once we went through that lesson, I was like, oh yeah, they were there first. And then instead of they did try to fight, but then they had to try going through the system to fight. And I saw the Chinese Americans in our lesson plan. They used the system to try to fight also, which is very admirable, but it's very strange at the same time. And I still think about it today, where it's like, like I said, I'm trying to play the game, right? I'm trying to make sure I get in and then work out, if that makes sense. Um, so I guess I'm looking at critical race theory. I look at what our ancestral Americans did, because, obviously we're not, but what they did and how they tried to make change and stuff. And there's still not a really good way for us to approach it, I think. I think I'm still trying to figure it out. And I think I'm on the older side, and I'm still trying to figure it out. And I probably need to talk about this with Professor Jacobs. I still talk to Professor Jacobs. That's a person who's going to be in my life forever, whether she likes it or not. But it's still something I need to unpack with her, or whoever our ancestors are. Like I said, I don't have any Filipino mentors really. Hopefully I'll meet more, but I tend to go towards, the Black Americans who are fighting this. Also want to shout out to Black Americans. I don't think there's always this tension in fighting with Asian Americans and Black Americans. And I understand it, because it's not like Asian Americans are the friendliest, but they need to get it together. Like they need to stop this mess. And that's one of the things I want later, or I wanted to bring the communities together a little bit more, because it's that I don't want if I want to be the bridge, but because I think we all need to stick together, not because us against them, but because we're literally better together. Like, I learned so much being in Balsa, or Black Law Student Association. I learned so much from them, and my friends from Florida have said that they've learned. I tried having like a Filipino night every night in Florida, not every night, but every like one night in Florida. And from that, they learned from me. And like recently, there was a there was a trend or something. All these Asians were talking about being in an Asian friend group, and how hard it was and how fake it was, like everyone's experience. And my friend Dom, who's Black American, she messaged me about it and asking me about it too. And I was explaining to her, I was like, oh yeah, like that's more of the East Asian group though, not really my group. I think I was okay, but we have this thing where we're fighting about this and we're fighting about that, lots of in group fighting with the Asians. And she said, oh, you guys are just like us. So we all have infighting also. So, cultural, of course, there's differences between everybody, but in a weird way, we're all still really connected. We all still kind of have the same fights with each other, So, um, I don't know. I didn't really have anything to say about that. I just went off on a tangent talking about what we were talking about today.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not that much of. If there's any, I assume it's gonna be like a podcast.
No. So, like to kind of
Right?
close this out, you've touched on a lot of things that other folks have kind of talked about. I know that I was talking with the Honorable Henry Lee Adams, who was the second Black person ever appointed to the federal bench in the state of Florida. But technically, he was nominated the same day as the first person. It's just he didn't get his commission until 2 days later. But
Okay.
his office is right across the hall from mine, and I kind of asked him. It's like, he went to school during segregation. In fact, if you go through and you look at kind of like how FAMU, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University Law School was closed so that Florida State University could open, he was in that class. So he wanted to go to FAMU Law, but they closed the school so that FSU could open. And so I asked him, how far can the law go versus what are the other avenues? And you kind of touched on that aspect of, some people need to tell their stories so that we can learn. Sometimes we need to have conversations with folks who don't look like us so that we can understand a different perspective. And so I thank you for sharing your perspective so that I learned a lot. And so I hope that others can, one, learn a lot, but two, hear somebody who looks like them, who's in the profession, so that they know that they can do this if they want to. And so thank you for sharing your story today.
Of course. Thank you for asking.